So let me start by asking in maybe one sentence, what does AI readiness mean for you in the context of your enterprise? Whoever wants to take that.
AI readiness could be looked at in multiple ways. So whether we have the knowledge, whether we have the data scientists who are getting trained on that, what works for us, what does not work for us, which direction to head to, which business problems to look into, should we start into a capability point of view, should we start partnering with somebody, infrastructure, so on and so many. I mean, there is no one dimension to think towards it, because AI readiness does not only mean from an AI perspective, but it has to get embraced into the business eventually. So thereby there are hundreds of dimensions that we have to look into. So we don't want to be an Arjuna just trying to aim at the eye of a bird, but we have to now become Dharmaraya, trying to see what happens to the ant below the tree as well once the bird falls down. So the number of dimensions we are looking at is humongous when compared to what it was in the past. Said that, where do we stand today? Can we go parallelly? Can we go sequentially? Some dimensions, yes, sequential, but some dimensions parallel. So what works for us today is difficult to say. Maybe it works today, maybe it does not work tomorrow. So all I want to conclude saying here on this particular question at least is, we are learning, at least I personally feel as a scientist in this area, there is so much more to learn, so much more to do, and so many dimensions that we join hands together and keep going.
And especially for any large organization, perhaps AI readiness is all about breaking the inertia and letting the engine run and ensuring that engine is really starting, crawling and then running, right? That's the part of readiness. Maybe, there are a lot of details which Madam has already said, but this is what I feel. Yeah.
No, fantastic. Let me just, in fact, if I could pick up on that, the natural tendency then is to have hundreds of or dozens of POCs running, and I see that in my capacity all the time, and it's very hard to say, well, how do we go from selecting these dozens of POCs to here are the 2, 3, 4 things that really need to scale. In your experience, what really works, what doesn't work in that part of it? How do you go from the sprawl of POCs to the 2, 3 killer apps, if you will?
I think this is a fantastic question, to be honest, and it's almost about 2 years when particularly generative AI wave has taken over, and now a lot of things have unfolded, and it's a very well known fact in the industry that almost 90 to 95% of the initiatives that are spawned off, because there's a FOMO in the industry, everybody wants to prove a point, get the competitive advantage, and there's only a handful that actually see the light of day in terms of real productionization and value to the customer, right? Now, from the journey, and I work for a law firm, the Harvey Specters of this country, right? And very regulated industry, very high trust industry, because it's just like a doctor. People come to these high paid lawyers like ours for very high stake deals, high stake transactions, right? And there's absolute zero tolerance for error, lack of data privacy and whatnot, right? A qualification of use case is a must, right? And sometimes a lot of the use cases are jumped upon because they seem low hanging fruits, while taking them to production needs a lot more nuanced approach, and to know the risk benefit of what the use case could deliver to you. Very importantly, and I think everybody in this room would agree, you need to have a data strategy and a data quality framework in place, and many times these use cases are not rooted in the kind of data that will deliver production grade use cases. So I think some of these factors to me are of paramount importance.
Yeah, in fact, I'll start a couple of things on both the aspects, like the AI readiness part, and how do you really figure out from hundreds of POCs. I think I would just say that AI readiness actually starts from mindset readiness. Is the organization ready, right? And then of course it has to flow into the enterprise platform readiness. It has to flow into SOP readiness of various things that we do. It has to flow into the data quality, the data availability readiness, of course, and then it also adds up to the talent and skill readiness. I think these are all sort of 4 or 5 dimensions which are pretty critical, and I would sort of call them, all of them are sort of equally important when we talk about AI readiness. And even from, for an organization, mid-size, large size, small size, running hundreds of POCs is a lot of challenge, because every POC has time and cost attached to it. I think what we all tend to do is we try to figure out those POCs which have a high probability of success, right? So from those 100, you need to figure out the 10 or the 5, out of which probably maybe 3 to 4 will succeed. I think the ones that we've seen succeed are the ones where the organization or the particular teams are ready. They are ready to let go. They are ready to say, hey, you know what, I will not do this anymore because technology can do this now. It also flows into SOP readiness, right? So, many organizations have tribal knowledge. So that tribal knowledge has to actually get into documents or knowledge bases in whatever form and shape. And of course, last and not the least is the technology platform and the data itself.
AI as a black box, given the amount of use, given the complexity of the problems it is being asked to solve, be it law, be it for banks, be it for medicine, that's changing, right? So how do you think about that? If you could,
I think it's a very evolving part of the problem statement that is there, or rather, solution is evolving, right? So we certainly have the observability at different levels. Now we create the dashboards, etc., for senior leadership. Now the things are happening that we take help of GenAI, where you say that, can we make this dashboard available where you put the query and answer is there in the shape and form that you require, right? And that's where it is not a fixed dashboard, but it's a dashboard which is basically responding to the query that is coming up, right? And query can come in different shape and form. The another aspect is the observability for the platforms, right? How will you ensure that if there's a platform where there are a large number of models which are there, large number of people who are working, there's a development team working, you have also given access to the users for building the POCs. How will you ensure that yes, there are key KPIs and the data points that are being monitored and regularized? That's where I see there's a lot of challenges which are there. Now which is costly solutions which are available. Focus is, do we really need to spend time here, or do we really need to work on something which we want to take it to customer, right? And this is something internal. But yes, observability in terms of the usage of infrastructure, in terms of the cost, and then the trigger for the cost, right, when the infrastructure is getting utilized. Those are part of the must do, which is implemented, right? Yeah.
I'll give you a real scenario that we went through. I was working with Bosch during those days. This tool was working wonderfully fine, 95% accuracy, all party time, really gala time. And then 2018, there was an announcement saying no more diesel vehicles. Forecasting was doing I get a smile, which is a grin smile, which says, we are already bad. Okay. Then by 2020, our corona came in place. Then we know how many sales took place. The production plants itself closed down. Okay, so you can understand how the sales numbers and what is the production or our forecasting tool doing now. I said scrap it, literally scrap it. Okay, added to it, see the not having diesel vehicles not only cut down, the sales of the diesel vehicles, it also made an impact on the petrol vehicles as well. And one more new change. Electric vehicles came. So can we ever go back to the model which we had developed in 2015? No way. We can never do that. We have to recreate. And what went on 2 years back is not true today. Again, get a new one. Man, keep changing, change. We used to say that, we got it as a slogan way back that, change is the only constant thing, that we pretty much use it so often. But we really went through that journey.
A very valid point, and I think this particular thing on data observability and the sustainability of AI or even ML in its older avatar, this whole AI ops paradigm has come in, and we all know there's something called a data drift. So the macro changing for us, and fortunately or unfortunately, we're living in a time, whether it's the new administration in the US or Corona before that, and there has been regular lot of these, if I may use the black swan events, right, which have completely undermined and changed the assumptions on which a lot of the models were built to forecast, whether it's sales, attrition, we've been using all of that. And it's very important to intermittently check the accuracy of the models vis-a-vis the real world. And I think that is where a lot of the synthetic data paradigm and tuning the model and not being stuck in the past. And I think that's a very good point made is there is a lot of denial at times in organizations because something that's worked for years, suddenly because of macro changes, if the forecast or the AI does not match the reality, the natural instinct, the first instinct is to retrofit it and think if you can tinker around while it may need a fundamental change. So being mindful of the data drift and this whole closure of the delta between the projections and the reality, it's a ritual to be followed ruthlessly.
And in fact, on that, so Dhruv, I'll come to you. In your sector, knowing, you are in the regulated industry, taking the right signal, be it for discharge DAT or be it for fraud, how do you take those signals and make sure it is a tool, and then how do you get widespread adoption in, let's say, hospitals? If you could talk a little bit about that.
So assume the treatment is over, and the doctor asks you to, you are actually free to go. But you know what? It actually takes 3 to 6 hours for you to actually leave the hospital. The reason being that it takes a lot of time for administrative and billing processes to run. Right? So the hospital has multiple departments, there is coordination that happens, then then it goes to a TPA, it goes to an insurer, they sort of get your out of pocket as well. So it's 3 to 6 hours of a patient and their family's time just waiting in the hospital for all these processes to be completed so that they can get their out of pocket. Right? So let's assume it's a 1 lakh rupee bill. Out of pocket, let's say, could be 20,000-30,000 depending on the kind of policy that you have. What we did is at Medi Assist is we developed this technology which we call as Raksha Prime today. Right? And what this technology does is it actually lets patient go immediately. Right? So they don't really have to wait for those 3, 4, 5 hours. And the way we do that is we are actually able to get a very, very highly accurate estimate of the bill. Even before all the coordination etc. happens, and in addition to the bill, we are also able to get the out of pocket because we have a fair sense, of course, of the policy as well. Right? So as soon as the doctor says, hey, you can go, you can actually leave because this isn't really required. You can just pay the estimated out of pocket expense and leave. Every month we do more than 30,000 plus discharges like that. Till date we've done more than 2.5 lakh discharges. Right? So all of this has been possible because we built a lot of algorithms which could predict bills. We had a lot of quality data which we curated over several months and quarters on which we trained our engines, right? Because you can imagine the complexity of varying kinds of policies, varying kinds of hospital billing patterns, varying kinds of ailments, treatments, etc. So it's a fairly complex problem, but with all the data and algorithms that we had, we were able to sort of get a fairly large number of people leaving happily after their treatment was over.
Last question to whoever, and then maybe we'll wrap up. Build versus buy. How do you think about this in your organizations? Anyone wants to take that?
We looked at multiple use cases, and again, it is the frenzy in the market, and it's a typical hype cycle, right? Where there's a mushrooming of the AI enterprises, particularly on GenAI, and everybody has a gold rush. Everybody wants to make money while they can, while the window is still on. And let's face it, there is a consolidation that's started to happen now. And what has happened is a lot of the enterprises who want to bet heavily on AI and including ours, we realized that everybody is doing a sliver of the value chain that we need to be done end to end. And what it ended up doing to us is we had to take a lot of things in our own hands and build stuff because we knew there are economies of scale and we can't buy licenses from 20 firms because they do piddly parts of the value chain. And a lot of these things also drive decisions.
Fantastic. So I think three things at least I heard consistently. Number one, think long term. Don't just think the immediate here and now. Don't just think one-off pilots. Number two, measure what truly matters and then go all out against that. And then number three, focus on the people around it. Be it the patient, be it the customer, be it the developer, but keep that laser focus and then you will succeed.